Hey, welcome to God Family Politics. Dr. Tyra Hodge here, your host. Today I have Kevin McGary again. And so I'm so excited because we didn't have enough time to finish talking, and he was so gracious to come back again. Kevin is the founder of All Black Lives Matter. And
Every
so
black every
every
black
Black life.
life matters.
Every Black life matters. And I do need to get that straight because we have a lot of spin-offs, but he actually created the original, and so I wanted to make sure that he gets props for that. So today what we're doing on the show, we are catching up, and I want to see what he is up to, what he is getting into, and what he is out there fighting against today. Gary, come on, tell me what you're doing. What are you doing?
So I'm just getting back from the AmFest, America Fest, which was in Phoenix, Arizona, just past few days. And so did a lot of interviewing down there. We actually had a booth, so meeting thousands of people. Everybody's excited about our mission at Every Black Life Matters, everyblm.com. And they love the fact that we're a righteous and faithful alternative to Black Lives Matter. A lot of people were wondering, well, how did you actually come to be? And is there anything good that ever came from BLM? Well, yeah, there is something good that came from BLM, and it's actually our organization. When we saw the destruction, the violence, and everything that was going on with Black Lives Matter and Antifa, we decided to start in order to be the righteous and faithful alternatives. We understand that people of faith really wanted to express their sorrow, the grief, and that, but aligning themselves with a Marxist organization was a bridge too far for a lot of people. And
And we
so
didn't
we
know.
came, yeah, yeah.
We
Well, really glad
we
I'm here.
didn't know, and a matter of fact, I remember my pastor saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go out and support Black Lives Matter." With all the great intent in his heart, I sent my kids to the street. And I gave them a strict warning about, and then as I dug through research, because of course I wanted to be able to monetarily support what was going on, and as I dug, I was like, oh my god,
Yeah,
Marxism, oh my god. Then
right.
I was like, the fall of the nuclear family, oh my god. And so the more I saw, the more I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, exactly right. And so we heard a lot of that, and there were a lot of people were very thankful that we're around because we stand for Black life from conception to the grave and every phase of life in between, which would include fatherhood, the nuclear family, school choice programs, free markets and capitalism.
Why school
Uh,
choice? Why did you throw school choice in there?
well, school choice polls in the 90s, believe it or not, in the Black community. So here's the problem. Right now, if you have children and you only have one platform, one school in your district to send your child to, and that school, that particular school is dilapidated or a crime infested, gangs and that kind of thing, and not really safe for your child or children, then that's not a healthy environment for your child to learn. And your child is going to be more concerned about their own personal safety than actually learning anything. The other thing is that we see the curriculum within our schools across the country now that are a lot of sexual perversion. It's just off the charts, right? And number two, a lot of gender confusion. So they're starting from kindergarten all the way up. And then, so a lot of parents, especially parents of faith, would rather have alternate platforms. So at least they can have choice, whether to send their child to a different learning environment. We have to remember too that, all of us are born and raised in environments that, it's not a cookie cutter type thing. A
Right.
lot of us really needed, we would excel in a different type of learning format.
That's right.
A lot of us need a little bit more mentorship and hand-on. Some of us, are good with hands-off, but a parent knows which environment is best for their child's learning aptitude, right? And so
Absolutely.
all we're saying with school choice is that parents have the ability then to make a choice and not just be, forced into your local school that may not be really safe for your child. So
And I think that's amazing, and a lot of people, because I do work in education, they find it surprising when I say that I believe in choice.
yeah,
I mean, it's common sense, a part of the Constitution is to be able to have that freedom and have our freedoms.
yeah,
And honestly, if could have afforded, as a parent, to have placed my children in a private school, then I would have, but I didn't have that choice. And so therefore, not a lot of conversations, because your children aren't telling you what's being taught in school all the time.
right,
They're not telling you about the conversations that they have at school. They're
right,
not telling you about their friends, especially if it's the negative type of friend. And so you don't know what you don't know.
yeah.
Um, and so it gets scary. So you have to have conversations.
Yes.
McGary, what I saw that you were into right now, you're discussing Darwinism and
Yeah.
how he was a racist.
Yeah.
Come, come, come,
So
come,
in
come,
my book,
come, school
in
us.
my book, woke up. Yeah. My book woke up. So it fully exposes the taproot of white supremacy and racism in America. Now, some people would think, well, okay, come on. I mean, racism has always been here and white supremacy has always been here. And I would say, no, it hasn't. No. I can quantify that. I've done the research. I can quantify it for you and for everybody, all your viewers. Here's the deal. Since the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, right, we have had a malady of the heart, right? And one of the maladies is racism, right? Or, that kind of thing. But here's the issue. In the ancient biblical times, you had tribalism, right? If you're not from my tribe, I don't trust you, I don't like you. We
Right.
had ethnic strife, right? Various ethnicities at each other's throat because you're not comfortable, right? You're not like me. You didn't come from my same region or geography, whatever. So we had those things absolutely from the beginning of man. But we did not have white supremacy, quote unquote, or racism in our modern context, quote unquote. Now, the reason why I say that is it wasn't up until someone of renowned scientific notoriety in the 1800s who came around and quantified scientifically the need for white supremacy and racism. And that one person was Darwin, Charles Robert Darwin. Now, some of your listeners will say, come on, you had slavery even before Darwin wrote his first book. Absolutely right. Slavery was done prior to Darwin's his pronouncements about supremacy and racism. Slavery was done based upon economic opportunism, right?
Mm.
So people saw free pay. If I can pay $50 and get a slave that's just come up from Africa and put him to work, and I don't have to worry about taking care of, great, I'll do that. So it was opportunism that really drove that. When Darwin did his writings and then distinguished that, look, whites have fully evolved. Whites have an intellectual capacity well beyond other ethnicities because if you look at the evolutionary scale, some of them, especially the blacks, are still subhuman apes, gorillas, and savages.
Mm.
Darwin's exact quotes. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. So when he did that, he instantiated white supremacy. First time in human history that anyone quantified that there is such a thing as whites being superior intellectually, cognitively, resourcefully, right? And blacks should be and can be relegated because they're subhuman. So Darwin did it. There was no distinction for that prior to Darwin.
Is he
So
also the one that came up with the IQ test? Or did that come afterwards?
I think that probably came after. But
Okay.
what Darwin, his justification was, look, first of all, the theory of evolution, and then it was convenient for him to use blacks, saying blacks are subhuman. They haven't fully evolved, so you can do whatever. Darwin, his justification and his quantification was that he really wanted to make sure that there was classes of races. And
Well, we
again,
saw that we saw a lot of the classes of races when during slavery, that the nice looking slaves or the lighter skinned slaves were working in the house, and then the more unappealing or unattractive people were out working the fields. And my mom used to, my mom's, she's only 18 years older than me, and so, but she said, growing up, that there was this type of racism, within the whole Black community, to where the lighter skinned ones were, thought as more beautiful, and then they would make fun of the darker skinned Black people, which, to me was absolutely insane. So obviously that had been embedded from some time. I even have a friend that's about the same age as me, that said that her brother, I think it was no, it was her aunt, her son, she was mad that her son was marrying somebody that was darker skinned. Wow. And they were Black themselves. And then that's now. That's
still goes on.
now
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So when he did that, that's the taproot, the main artery, if you will, the point in time in human history, and especially in American history, where we then actually instantiated racial classifications, right? He said that, I've looked at the cranial cavity of all these other races, and the cranial, capacity for blacks are, well, they're subhuman, they're not developed. And so that was purposeful and intentional. Now, the other thing that he did, and by the way, this book fully quantifies, including all of footnotes and private letters and everything. Again, it's called Woked Up, and the subtitle is finally putting finally putting an axe to the taproot of white supremacy and racism in America. You can get it on Amazon in a couple of days. But here's the thing. The other thing that he did, the other thing that he instantiated is scientific justification for extermination of all other ethnicities.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah. So it was him and his white supremacist cousin, Francis Galton, who was a modern day pioneer of modern day statistics. I mean, he was brilliant, right? But he looked at the evolution, he looked at the geography around the world, and these other populations, these other ethnic populations that were overpopulating and reproducing at a much greater rate than white European Caucasians were. And so we talked to his older cousin, Darwin. He says, look, we need to come up with a scientific justification for exterminating these folks. Otherwise, they're going to overtake our pure white heritage, and we're not going to be supreme anymore. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm giving you the sort of the thought. So what they came up with was, well, okay, anybody that's not well born, which in the Greek, that's what eugenics means. Eugenics means well born. Then they can be exterminated. And so anybody that was born with any kind of infirmities or defects in any other ethnicity other than whites, because every other ethnicity they determined were some scale of classification on the evolutionary scale, they can be exterminated. That justification was used with Hitler, Mao, Lenin, Stalin. All of them used that on their own populations in order to exterminate people. They said, look, Darwin said eugenics, if they're not pure white Aryan Caucasians, we can exterminate them. So that's where all of that mindset came from. It was Darwin, okay? So this book gives you everything you need to know about the woke movement, because literally, if you characterize yourself as being woke and you want to virtue signal that way, literally being woke means that you are in full embrace of white supremacy and racism. Because Darwin then handed the baton to Karl Marx. Okay. Karl Marx then handed the baton to others like Margaret Sanger, Saul Alinsky, and those folks.
And
In
so
our
we're very familiar with Margaret Sanger in the
yeah,
eugenics. You
yeah,
know, the eradication of the undesirables, and the undesirables being black. And so,
right.
and you know what, and it's crazy, the creator of Planned Parenthood, but you know, a lot of people are marching to try to save. You talk about the irony of scripture. Can you go a little bit into that?
As it relates to
As
eugenics, or
it relates to race and racism.
yeah. So the irony of scripture is this: if you are a person of faith, then you have to believe that God created mankind one time, right? So he created Adam, then he took a rib and he created Eve, one gender, one human species. And from that one human species, we had these various trees and trees of ethnic communities that basically were born into and then spread across the world. But he did it one time, which means that there is no such thing as one race being superior to other. We all come from one stream of humankind. That's what God did. So and it just so happens that as people spread out, they basically started to take on different characteristics of the regions and environments and geographies where they were spread out to. But we all came from Adam and Eve, according to the Bible, if you're a person of faith. So when you start to say, well, my race is superior to any others, then you're actually outside of biblical context, and you're taking in Darwinism, Marxism, and those other demonic mindsets. So so that's one peculiarity. The other one is Jeremiah 1:5. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, look, before I placed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. I'm talking about now the eugenics aspect of this. He said, before I placed you, I knew you, and I gave you purpose, destiny, and all of that. Psalm 139 talks about him counting the hairs on your head. So if God is so intricately involved with life at conception, who are we to summarily decide, well, we can do it. You don't deserve to live. And since we know that abortion is here by way of eugenics, and eugenics was made up whole cloth, out of whole cloth, nothing scientific, out of whole cloth based upon white supremacy and a racist mindset, then that means that if you are a pro-abort, you support abortion in any way, the bad news for you is you're literally a white supremacist and a racist. That's just what it is, because that's why it's here. It was created for that. So so that's the biblical context for both humankind, one race, and for life. That makes sense? Did I?
Well, I muted myself. It does make sense. It does make sense. So where do we go? I mean, how do we get past what's here? Let me try to make it a little bit more clear. So we talked about Darwinism. We talked about the schools, how it's infiltrating the schools. So as a parent, how do we combat, you know, these ideas? Because we have critical race theory now that's trying to say that, you know, every white person is racist. And so you have this constant this constant battle trying to reinforce that somebody is racist. And in
Right,
fact, the
right.
people that are writing this stuff is racist.
Right. They're the ones who are white supremacists and racist. So here's the thing. How do you combat it? First of all, you have to acknowledge that all of this comes from Darwin and his exploits. Okay. So the irony is Darwin is taught and infused throughout all curriculum, kindergarten through 16, through college, right? So we're trying to expose Darwin for what he was. And we're hoping that then schools begin to change the curriculum. If they want to cancel Dr. Seuss, they want to cancel Huck Finn, they want to cancel and throw away all these books, they want to cancel our founders and framers and our first presidents because they had a plantation and had some slaves or whatever the context is, then surely somebody that literally called blacks gorillas, apes, savages, and subhuman, they need to be canceled.
Oh, absolutely.
Just following their standard. Just following.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we need activist parents to go to school boards and to say, look, if I came in here and I told you that every ethnicity in here were subhuman and apes and savages, you'd probably throw me out, and I would. Everyone in here would applaud it, and I would deserve to be thrown out.
That's right.
And so why is it that you are allowing our children to be taught from this mindset? And then they would say, oh, we don't teach from that mindset. What are you talking about? And then you bring out the book and you bring out the footnotes and you bring out the exact quotes from Darwin. And you say, well, you do teach Darwinism, right? You teach us evolutionary theories. You teach, whatever. And they would say, well, we don't teach those quotes. That doesn't matter. Your standard at the school board is anybody that's white supremacist or racist, you're canceling. Right. That's what you've been doing. So in accordance with your standard, not mine as a parent, but your standards, I'm helping you. You have 30 days to tell us as parents how you're going to get rid of all of Darwin's theories out of curriculum. So we have to hold them accountable for that.
Right. Let's talk about your nonprofit.
Yeah. So nonprofit is Every Black Life Matters. And again, what we stand for is the nuclear family, Black life, supporting Black life from conception to the grave. We stand for fatherhood initiatives. We stand for, school choice programs. We stand for free markets and capitalism. And we stand for, for criminal justice reforms, additional criminal justice reforms. Ooh, it just so happens.
What do you mean?
Well, okay, so it just so happens that in 1994, we had a person by the name of Joe Robinette Biden, who said he beat his chest and said, "Look, we're going to start putting people behind bars and have them do 25 to life for even a $5 piece of crack." And at the same time, he allowed kilos of cocaine, white cocaine, powder cocaine, that people who were doing that to do 3 years, 5 years. And he called that his criminal justice reforms. Wow. He said, we're going to get rid of the urban predators, right? And so that was Joe Biden who did mass incarceration to our community, targeting our community. Okay. So we need more criminal justice reforms like what President Trump did, who let thousands, I think almost 10,000 people out, trying to correct what Joe Biden did with his 1994 crime bill. So we need more of that. We still have people behind bars that had a $10 bag of weed, had a $5 piece of crack, and they're doing 25 to life.
Wow.
And so we need to correct that. Yeah.
So, okay, so so I'm living in I am working with students where, well, it's everywhere in the United States. So it's not just where I work, but the rise, the use of drugs has gotten out of control all over. So as an activist yourself, how would you begin? Give some of my parents, some of my educators, some of our leaders and educators, some steps that we could do to start combating that reform. because
First
we're
of all,
giving
we need,
kids felonies over these things.
yeah, yeah. So first of all, we need to acknowledge that the 1994 crime bill was a racist bill by a racist guy who right now is the president.
Right.
And now he can correct his wrong, but he and his vice president have done nothing to do any additional criminal justice.
That's right, because that's lock them up, Camilla.
Yeah.
That
So
laughed
exactly.
about
So what
putting
we need to
somebody.
do is raise our voice and say, look, we still need more criminal justice reforms. Your predecessor did it. How come you're not? And by the way, this is kind of your signature bill that you beat your chest on. That put a lot of blacks and Latinos behind bars for relatively small offenses, especially compared to today's laws, right? A lot of these things have been, legalized now, marijuana and stuff like that. So, so we need to raise our voices and make sure that the White House knows that we remember that you guys, you Biden, are the one who did this. Now, could you start to correct it? Can you do something? Can you help something? Start to correct it. You don't have to live with that kind of a legacy, even though we didn't hold you accountable. We still put you in the White House.
Yeah.
But anyway, we need to raise our voice and help them understand that we understand, that we know what's going on.
Okay. So any burning, where can we get your book?
So Amazon.com, go and just type in Woked, WOKED, up, and you can type in my last name, McGary, McGary. It'll come up, and you'll get it in 2 days. And you have all the talking points you need, all the facts and figures, literal private letters and everything. Everything's footnoted, so you can do your own research, and everything's there. And it'll fully equip you for having conversations with woke friends and family members. You help them understand, look, your embrace of that is not cool. I mean, it's literally perpetuating white supremacy and racism. So you need to get out of that.
So what what would you say to some of our CRT people that are doing like the—
Well, critical race theory is directly, it comes from Marxism. Karl Marx is a virulent racist. Karl Marx was the protege of Charles Darwin. So Karl Marx, really took all of Darwin's philosophies, embedded it in all of his economic philosophies: Marxism, socialism, communism. And so, if you're in CRT, literally you're embracing white supremacy and racism via critical race theory.
Right.
It is a systemically racist ideology in and of itself. That's what it is. So, you need to come out of that. It's time to get woked up. Time to get woked up, folks.
Gotta get woked
up.
If
you really want to stand against white supremacy and racism, then get out of that and denounce and renounce Darwin, Marx, Saul Alinsky, the whole lot. Denounce them, because they were racist and white supremacists, and I fully quantify it. So it's not me doing any ad hominems. It's just what it was.
Mr. McGary, leave us on some good words.
Good words is, I want us to all have a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy the holiday, enjoy the season, that this is the season that we're celebrating the birth of Christ, okay?
Yes.
And so have a very Merry Christmas and a very safe New Year. And please go to our website, everyblm.com.
If you're watching this on social media, I'm going to have a link on all the social media links. But if you're watching this on TV, tell us one more time where we're.
everyblm.com. And you can go there, you see, we have lots of resources, all kinds of things there. And you can become a partner and support us any way you can. Because we're standing up for righteousness and truth. And we've got a lot of work to do. So let's do it together.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on my show. And keep us updated on what you're working on next.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.